Dear students, for the next half an hour, you are going to gain a short knowledge about the classification of functional foods and nutraceuticals. Do you remember what we learnt in our previous class? Yes, we learnt about the definition of functional foods and nutraceutical foods. Can you tell me the definition for functional foods? Yes, the functional foods are the foods that provide the body with necessary nutrients like fats, proteins, carbohydrate, vitamins and minerals, and other than this they also provide some health benefit beyond the basic nutrition required by the body for its healthy living. Functional foods and conventional foods, they also have proven physiological benefits and they reduce the risk of chronic diseases, that is, they have some bioactive components present. Plant, animal and marine are the sources of bioactive components like omega-3 fatty acids, lycopene, isoflavones, beta-glucan, etc. Now, we shall learn how these functional foods are classified. The functional foods are classified either as whole foods or they can be called as basic foods also. Second one is fortified foods and the third one is enhanced foods. Students, can you give me some example for whole foods and their health benefits? Yes, why I am asking you is whole foods is nothing but the foods which we eat wholly or as such, like oats, soya, fruits and vegetables, fish, garlic, grapes, flaxseed and nuts. The bioactive components present and their health benefits are presented in the slide. Students, now have a look at the slide. You can understand what are all the bioactive components present in these foods. Next, after whole foods, we will discuss about fortified foods. Fortification is nothing but enhancement of nutrients in any food. Can you give me some examples of commonly fortified foods? So, any foods like cereals and cereal based products, they are fortified with folic acid or added fiber. Now, the atta which we commonly get is also fortified with micronutrients, and the milk and milk products are fortified with vitamin D. Fats and oils, they are fortified with vitamin D and E. Even tea and other beverages, fruit juices are fortified with calcium or added fiber. Next, we will learn about enhanced foods. Enhanced foods are foods that have more of a functional component through traditional breeding, genetic engineering, etc. Example, dairy products are enhanced with probiotics. The benefits derived by consuming these enhanced foods are they reduce the risk of colon cancers and they are helpful in the treatment of respiratory allergies and in controlling diarrhea and dysentery disorders, and finally they decrease cholesterol level, thus reducing the risk of heart disease. Next, we will learn about the nutraceutical classification. Products that are prepared from foods but they are sold in the form of pills or powders or in other medicinal forms not usually associated with foods. These nutraceuticals, they have proven evidences for physiological benefit or they prevent the onset of chronic disease. Next, we shall learn the classification of nutraceuticals. They can be organized in several ways depending upon the specific interest of an individual. Cardiologists will be interested in nutraceutical substances which have a positive influence on hypertension and hypercholesterolemia, thus reducing the risk factors of heart disease, while the oncologist will be interested in substances which are associated with anti-carcinogenic activities like augmentation of microsomal detoxification systems and antioxidation defenses, or substances which reduce the progression of existing cancer. Next, the food scientists who are working on development of a functional food product will include physiological properties, stability and sensory properties, while the dietitian will be more concerned about the nutraceutical potential of intact foods and how to apply it in modified diets. However, nutraceuticals are classified based upon the following. One is the food source, 2 the mechanism of action, how they act, and 3 the chemical nature of the nutraceutical. Now, let us see about some of the nutraceutical substances present in different food sources. Many nutraceutical substances are found in plants, animals, and in microbes. For example, microbes, plants, and animals, they contain choline and phosphatidylcholine. Linolenic acid is also found in a variety of food sources, including animal tissues, though it is primarily synthesized in plants and other lower members of the food chain. And now have a look at this slide. Are you able to familiarize with a few of the nutraceutical substances found in animals like DHA, calcium, and now I am going to list the other substances like conjugated linoleic acid, EPA or eicosapentaenoic acid, docosahexaenoic acid which is called as DHA, the sphingolipids, choline, lecithin, calcium, ubiquinone, and selenium and zinc. Next, we will see the nutraceuticals present in microbes like Saccharomyces boulardii or yeast, and then in Bifidobacterium bifidum, Bifidobacterium longum, Bifidobacterium infantis, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Streptococcus salvarius. Also, the nutraceuticals are grouped based upon relatively concentrated foods. There are several nutraceutical substances that are found in higher concentrations in specific foods or food families. For example, capsaicinoids are found primarily in pepper fruit, allyl sulfur or the organosulfur compounds which are particularly concentrated in onions and garlic. Now, let us look at the nutraceutical substances and their family and the foods which are good sources of this. First one is the allyl sulfur compounds, and I think you all know that onions or garlic are good sources. Isoflavones, do you know which food is good source of isoflavone? Yes, soybeans and other legumes are the good sources. Quercetin is present in onion, red grapes, citrus fruits and broccoli. The capsaicinoids are present in good quantity in pepper fruit, and the EPA and DHA, they are present in only in fish oil. Can you tell me lycopene is present in which fruit? Yes, tomatoes and tomato products and purees are good sources of lycopene. Isothiocyanates, can you name some vegetables? Yes, the cruciferous vegetables are good sources of isothiocyanates. Beta glucan, oat bran is a good source of beta glucan, and beef and dairy products are good source of CLA, and the skin of grapes and red wine are good source of resveratrol, and carrots, squash, pumpkin and citrus fruits are good source of which nutraceutical can you name? Yes, it is beta carotene. Rosemary is rich in carnosol, and teas and berries, they are good source of catechins, and again garlic and onion are good source of indoles and adenosine, and cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale and Brussels sprouts, they are good sources of indoles, and turmeric is a good source of curcumin. Grapes, strawberries, raspberries and walnuts, they are good in ellagic acid, and red wine is rich in anthocyanins, and plants or the component of cell walls are rich in cellulose, as you all know. The next method of classifying nutraceuticals is by their mechanism of action. This method groups nutraceuticals together regardless of food source but based upon their proven or purported physiological properties. They are antioxidant, antibacterial, hypotensive, hypocholesterolemic, anti-aggregate, anti-inflammatory, anti-carcinogenic and osteoprotective. There are several nutraceuticals that can be listed as having more than one mechanism of action. One such a nutraceutical is omega-3 PUFA or omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acid. Their nutraceutical properties, it can be related to direct and also some indirect effects. For example, this fatty acid, they are used as precursors for eicosanoid substances that locally vasodilate, bronchodilate and deter platelet aggregation and clot formation. The second function is they also can be prophylactic for asthma and heart disease. Omega-3 PUFA also reduce the activities of protein kinase C and tyrosine kinase, both of which are involved in a cell growth signaling mechanism. Omega-3 PUFA also appears to inhibit the synthesis of fatty acid synthase, which is a principal enzyme complex involved in the novo fatty acid synthesis. Here, the nutraceutical effect is considered indirect, as chronic consumption of these PUFA may lead to lesser quantities of body fat over time and the development of obesity. Next, the nutraceuticals are classified based on action also. So, first one we will see some anti-cancer nutraceuticals. The nutraceuticals which have anti-cancer properties. Can you give me one example? Yes, alpha-tocotrienol is one example. Similarly, capsaicin, gamma-tocotrienol and genistein are also having anti-cancer nutraceuticals. And the sphingolipids, limonene, diallyl sulfide, enterolactone, curcumin, ellagic acid, all these nutraceuticals are having anti-cancer properties. So, they are classified under nutraceuticals which help in anti-cancer activity. Next, we will see about some nutraceuticals which have a positive influence on blood lipid profile. Can you give me one example of one nutraceutical which has a positive effect on lipid? Yes, beta glucan. And can you give me the source of beta glucan? Yes, oats is a good source of beta glucan, and this has a very good effect on reducing the blood lipid profile. Next one is the tocotrienol and also the monounsaturated fatty acids, the omega polyunsaturated fatty acids, and resveratrol present in grapes, quercetin, tannins. All these have a positive influence on blood lipid profile, or they help in reducing the unwanted or the bad lipids in our body. Next, we shall see some example for antioxidation nutraceuticals. Can you name one nutraceutical which has good antioxidation properties? I think you can think about some vitamins. Yes, ascorbic acid is a good antioxidant. Also, beta carotene is a good antioxidant. Other nutraceuticals with antioxidation properties are CLA, polyphenols, tocopherols, tocotrienols, and indole 3 carbonyl. Now I think you are clear with nutraceuticals that are rich in antioxidant properties. Next, we will see some nutraceuticals which have an anti-inflammatory action. Again, they are the linolenic acid, EPA, DHA, quercetin, curcumin, and capsaicin, which all have anti-inflammatory action. So, you would have understood same nutraceutical performs different functions like anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, anti-cancerogenic. Next, we will see some examples for osteogenic or bone protective nutraceuticals. So, the bone protective ones are CLA, soy protein, genistein, diaxin, and finally it is the mineral calcium. And the third method of grouping nutraceuticals is by its chemical nature. This chemical nature method allows nutraceuticals to be categorized under either molecular or elemental groups as first one isoprenoid derivatives, 2 phenolic substances, 3 fatty acids and structural lipids, fourth one carbohydrates and derivatives of carbohydrates, fifth one is the amino acid based substances, and the last two are microbes and minerals. Now, let us see one by one. The first one is the isoprenoid derivatives, or it can be called as terpenoids also. This isoprenoids and terpenoids, they are similar terms and they refer same class of molecules. These substances are the largest groups of secondary metabolites. They are also the basis for many plant derived nutraceuticals like carotenoids, tocopherols, tocotrienols, and saponins. This group is also referred to as isoprenoid derivative because the principal building molecule is isoprene. This isoprene is synthesized from acetyl coenzyme A through a mevalonic acid pathway and TCA cycle. Now, look at this structure of isoprene. The next secondary metabolite is phenolic compounds. Phenolic compounds are considered secondary metabolites because the base for this very diverse family of molecules is a phenol structure, which is a hydroxyl groups on an aromatic ring. From this structure, larger molecules are formed such as anthocyanins, coumarins, phenyl propamides, flavonoids, tannins, and lignin. So, students, after learning about isoprenoids and phenolic compounds, we will know about the carbohydrate derivatives. I think it will be little easier, or you are familiar with carbohydrate derivatives because from UG classes you are learning about carbohydrate derivatives. It is nothing but the cellulose, hemicelluloses, starch and polysaccharides. Several polysaccharides are restricted to digestion in humans, and these polysaccharides are grouped along with phenolic polymer compound lignin to form fibers, which is an important plant nutraceutical. Other important carbohydrate derivatives with nutraceutical properties are pectin, glycosan aminoglycans or the mucopolysaccharides, and some example of this GAGs are hyaluronic acid, chondroitin sulfate. So, are you familiar with carbohydrate derivatives? Yes, they are present in plants. Fourth one is fatty acids and structural lipids. There are a couple of fatty acids or derivatives that have nutraceutical potential. They include omega-3 PUFA, which is present in higher concentration in plants, fish and other marine animals, and the second one is the CLA, which is produced by bacteria in the rumen of grazing animals such as cattle. The formation of CLA probably serves to help control the vitality of releasing bacterial population in the rumen, while plants and fish use omega-3 fatty acids for their properties in membranes. The fifth one is the amino acid based. This group has the potential to include protein, especially the soy protein, then the polypeptides, amino acids, nitrogenous and sulfur amino acid derivatives. Another nutraceutical amino acid derived molecule is folic acid, which is believed to be cardioprotective in its role of minimizing homocysteine levels. Other members of this group include the tripeptide glutathione and choline. The next one is about the microbes, or the one which acts as probiotics. While the other groupings of nutraceuticals which you learned so far, they involve molecules or elements, but probiotics involves only the intact microorganisms. This group largely includes bacteria, which is a microbe, and this is resistant to acid conditions of stomach, bile and digestive enzymes, and they are normally found in the human gastrointestinal tract. They are able to colonize human intestine and are also safe for human consumption. And lastly, they have scientifically proven efficacy. Among the bacterial species which are recognized having functional food potential are, can you name one which you are very familiar with? Yes, Lactobacillus acidophilus. Next one is the Lactobacillus plantarum, L. casei and Bifidobacterium bifidum, B. infantis and Streptococcus salivarius. Some yeast also has been noted, including the Saccharomyces boulardii. The last one is about the minerals. Minerals are recognized for their nutraceutical potential, and the most obvious mineral is calcium, which is related to bone health, colon cancer and hypertension and cardiovascular disease. Potassium is another mineral which has been shown to reduce hypertension and therefore improves cardiovascular health. A couple of trace minerals have also been purported to have nutraceutical potential. These include copper, selenium, manganese and zinc. Their nutraceutical potential is in relation to antioxidation. Copper, zinc and manganese are components of superoxide dismutase enzyme, while selenium is a component of glutathione peroxidase. So students, so far we were studying about functional foods classification, and the functional foods are classified as whole foods, fortified foods and enhanced foods. And you all know about the health benefits of these functional foods. And next we learnt about the classification of nutraceuticals, and their classification is based upon their first one is food source, and this food source can be either plants, animals or microbes, and the second one is based on the mechanism of action, like whether they have anti-cancer property or they have positive influence on blood lipid profile, or they act as an antioxidant, or they act as osteogenic or bone protective nutraceuticals. And finally, we learnt about the chemical nature of the nutraceuticals, and the classification of this chemical nature includes the isoprenoid derivatives, the phenolic substances, fatty acids, the carbohydrates and their derivatives, amino acid based substances, the microbes, and the last minerals.